All right, today we are jumping into a pretty wild alternate history, one that comes from a few different sources. And let me tell you, this theory, it basically takes everything we think we know about the 20th century and flips it on its head. So let's get right into it. So what if I told you that everything you learned about World War II was a lie? I mean everything. The winner, the loser, the weapons, the entire balance of power. What if it was all just one massive, elaborate deception? That's the core question we're going to unpack today based on this material. And the answer these sources give is, well, it's a bombshell. The central claim is that, behind the scenes, Japan was the real victor of World War II. And not only that, but they've been running a secret global empire this whole time. Okay, so the immediate question is, how? How could a victory that big be achieved and kept a secret? Well, according to this theory, it all started with a secret weapon, something that completely changed the game in the Pacific. This right here was supposedly their ace in the hole. The sources claim these were the world's first smart weapons. Basically, radio-controlled drones stuffed with high-grade explosives. An unstoppable force, they say. And get this, the strategy they allegedly used was genius. It was a three-step guidance system. First, they'd launch the drones. Then, pilots in nearby planes would guide them visually from a distance. But for the final kill shot, submarines would actually surface to provide that pinpoint accuracy. The sources claim this was so deadly, it had a 100% success rate against battleships, forcing the US Navy into a secret, unconditional surrender. Okay, but wait a minute. If Japan won, then what about the atomic bombs? Hiroshima? Nagasaki? Right? Well, this leads us to the next absolutely crucial piece of this theory. A cover-up so big, the sources call it the atomic illusion. So here you can see the two stories side by side. You've got the official history we all learned in school, and then you have this theory's claim. It says there were no atomic bombs. Instead, those cities were just intensely carpet-bombed, and the mushroom clouds, faked, using what they call composite film techniques, like old-school Hollywood special effects. The whole point was to create this illusion of American power, this big psyop, so Japan could rule from the shadows. And the whole idea of the atomic illusion hinges on this one core belief, a direct quote from the material. Human beings have no ability to split an atom. So if you can't split an atom, you can't have nuclear fission. And if you can't have that, well, then nuclear weapons are an impossibility. So if the world thinks America is the big superpower, how does this silent Japanese empire actually, rule? The theory goes that they started this quiet, long-term occupation of the US, but not with soldiers and tanks. They used unconventional weapons. And these were their alleged tools. Think about this. It's not about an army on every street corner. It's way more subtle. It's about covert attacks on your body and on the system. The sources talk about a massive campaign to weaken everyone by drugging food and water with estrogenic compounds, letting prescription drugs contaminate the water supply, and even using lead-filled vaporizers. On top of that, they say they took over school boards to push depopulation agendas. And what's the result of all this? Well, the sources point to this number right here, 1.62. That's the US birth rate. They claim this is proof positive that their biological and social engineering is working. It's a sign, they say, that the country is literally dying out. Now, this next part of the theory is pretty extreme. It alleges that abortion clinics aren't for healthcare at all. Instead, they were supposedly set up as harvesting centers. The sources use the term meat locker, claiming their real purpose is to supply the Japanese empire with things like stem cells and blood products, all taken from the occupied population. So it's not just biological attacks. The theory goes even further. It argues that the real weapons of this silent empire are things you and I use every single day. They're hidden in plain sight, in our culture and our technology. Take our media and entertainment. The sources say it's all just propaganda. The Karate Kid? That's about an elderly Japanese man easily beating up young Americans. A lesson in superiority. Gung Ho? Same thing, but with workers. Even a show like Married with Children is supposedly designed to make us all okay with mediocrity. And then you have stuff like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!, which they claim induce seizures. They even say the USA Today logo is just a disguised Japanese flag. And it's not just media, it's our tech too. Your cell phone, that's called the #1 mind manipulation tool. Nintendo games, designed to cause seizures. Sony TVs, military weapons. Even the super bright LED headlights on cars, the theory says those are intentionally designed to damage your retinas and mess with your sleep. It's all part of this grand plan to keep the population weak and under control. Okay, so you have to be asking, why? What's the motive for a secret conquest that spans over a century? Well, according to these sources, the answer goes way back to one specific moment in history. This timeline really connects all the dots. It all starts in 1853 with Commodore Perry sailing into Japan. The sources call this the humiliation, an insult so deep it kicked off a multi-generational plan for revenge. The secret drone attack in the 1940s? That was the trap. And where we are today, that's the final goal. A secret worldwide empire built to make sure Japan would never be humiliated again. And what's the ideology behind this empire? It supposedly comes down to this one slogan: the weak are meat, the strong do eat. It's a pretty brutal worldview, right? And it's presented as the justification for everything, for the secret conquest and the exploitation of entire nations. So what we've just walked through is, well, it's a theory of a world that's been completely turned on its head. And it really leaves you with one big kind of chilling thought. If a global empire really could operate in total secrecy, if it could rule from the shadows, what would that even look like? How would any of us know?